Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Arwin, A Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, No Globe, Milu, and Jay. Good to have you all.
Hello.
Hello.
Greetings.
Hola. Nate, could I just read something that Paul Voigt, you know, that lost wandering guy that we've not seen for months, the one that claims that we've got a molten iron core? This is what he wrote in chat before. He said, a 1 billion ton mountain would attract an 80-kilogram person at a distance of 1 kilometer with a force of 0.00534 newtons. Reckon you'd feel that, huh? And obviously you can attribute the smarmy Australian accent with it as you do it. But if you did the same maths with regards to the shelf that that Milu was talking about and the dust particle, I wonder what Newton's force would be calculated by Paul if we measured the Newton's.
How about you find out?
Dust.
How about you find out yourself?
I'm asking Paul Voigt to do it because he's the one that's the mathematician here. A speck of dust, Paul, against a shelf. Let's see what newtons would be required to attract, or what measurement of newtons that would be. When you're ready, Paul, thanks.
Hey,
Yeah.
Anthony.
Yeah, sorry for bringing up the dust thing, but my whole point about
You have to
dust and
apologize.
surface tension is that it is not mass-based. The surface tension actually kicks into effect when the mass is low enough. Because if it gets bigger, then it doesn't work anymore. So to automatically assume that surface tension, of which causes dust to stick to other objects, is caused by gravity is absolutely preposterous. It's practically
How
the
would you know
exact
if you haven't
opposite.
tested it?
My dog was freaking out that Nathan sounds like Arwen.
So proof of
you're on
R.
Skype. Yes,
I have proof of R.
I have
the
proof of
equator.
dust on my shelf.
Me too.
I will say, Milo, I suggested,
Is it
I think what
18?
you're going to
Is it
say
18?
the other day, and it was shot down. So,
What was that?
well, exactly what you're suggesting would be the equator. And
Right.
then I went a step further and said the perpendicular circumference. You could go from 90 degrees of the lines of longitude, go up to the North
No,
Pole, go back
because-
down to the equator.
It's because you're talking too much in our terms, instead of meeting them on their field, you know. So to me, the equator would be the longest distance you can travel straight in any direction.
You don't travel along it straight. If you travel along the equator, you apply declination. What are you talking about? You don't travel straight.
Even okay, so on your map, you're taking a right or left turn, right, on the equator.
On any
So
map.
the longest
On
the
any
longest
map.
distance.
On your
on my
you're
map.
traveling down.
What are you talking about?
All right.
You just asserted.
We
No,
don't
I mean,
know.
straight.
Sorry, are you
We
going to
don't
correct
know.
your utter
We don't
nonsense that
know.
you've just asserted, or not?
We
Can I-
don't
can I-
know if
can I-
it
can I
is
say
a
what
straight
I'm
line
saying?
or
Can I
a,
keep going?
a path along a circle. We haven't actually tested that.
What I'm saying is, it's the longest distance you can travel straight, meaning straight
Is it?
without turning.
Is it really? How do you
Yeah.
know? How do you know it is?
Well,
Have
do
you
you
done
do you trust
Have you
maps? Do you
compared
trust? Do you trust that we know the distances between states, continents,
No,
towns,
No.
cities?
No,
We
I do
don't?
not.
No, not at all.
We don't know the distance. So we don't know the distance from England to New York.
We
I
know
think
the
you've been deceived
distances
massively with the
on
maps.
land from one point to another, but in between, that's still very
So we
much
don't-
speculation.
We don't know. We don't know the distances between continents. Is what you're saying?
We can assume them, but we don't know for
Assume
sure.
them how?
Well, by assuming we're living on a ball and then you know it, but we don't actually know it for sure. We're being
So we
told
don't-
that it's a
Assumption.
specific distance, but we don't really trust the source of who's
So
telling us.
you see, Jay. This is where you expose like their arguments, because now we're questioning the distances between states, continents. So we don't know the distance between Chicago.
Continents,
Let's
between
talk small.
continents specifically.
So no, but let's talk small. Do we know the distance between Manhattan and New Jersey?
Yeah, I'd say
Or-
those are pretty consistently mapped out. You've got pretty good maps in that regard. But you
So
just
how
ignored
about
what
so
he
how
just
about
said.
let's go
So
a
he's
step further.
attacked a point that you've made about
Uh-huh.
continents and the distance between them, and then reasserted that specifically is what we have issue with, and then you've scaled it down to continents, from continents to cities, which, yes, I would say
Right.
that they are
I
probably
wanna see
very
at what
well
point you
mapped.
guys agree.
Oh, and now you're going to talk all over me. Right, okay.
You're coming in delayed. You're coming in delayed. Sorry.
No, I'm not. There's nothing wrong with the hangout.
It's on my side.
All right.
So you were saying, Nathan? Sorry.
Yeah, so the scale issue, you've just reduced the scale from continents to cities. And I would assert that the maps are pretty damn accurate when it comes to city, but across continents and where the actual layout of the entire world is concerned, we don't have an accurate map of the world. There are no totally accurate, totally representative maps. None.
No,
Zero.
I'm
Nada.
not saying they are.
Right,
But-
why would
but-
you trust the distances then? This is the point that Arwen's just asserted. You've steamrolled it and changed the scale, rather than addressing that you're completely and utterly assuming everything, which is his point. You've just ignored it. Annoying.
All right.
I think I can help with this measurement.
But hold up,
simply.
but by what degree do you think we could be wrong?
I don't know. I'm not a cartographer.
By a couple thousand miles, by
Who
a couple
knows?
hundred
We
miles.
don't know the layout of the world. Neither do you. You're telling me that you know there's no accurate maps that show exactly how the world's laid out. But now you're asking me whether or not I know and how I've measured it. I'm not a bloody cartographer. I haven't got a boat. I haven't got a tape measure that's 7,000 miles long. What stupid question?
On what basis do you are you questioning anything I'm saying then?
Because we don't have any. We're going around in circles. I've just said we don't have an accurate world map with exact layouts of where everything is. So why would
No,
I
but
assume that any of the distances shown on any of the maps, if I know none of them are accurate, why would I assume any are accurate? This is a nonsense.
But accuracy comes in degrees, Nathan. You know that.
Right. So you're saying it could be a bit out. That's our point.
And what's
A
wrong
bit
with
out,
that?
enough wiggle room
Could be
here
a
and
lot
there, and you
out.
can ignore entire
Right.
aspects of life, can't you?
It could be a little bit out, but it can't be like completely
Hello.
out. It could be a little bit out, but it can't be like
Hey, Unorthodox.
Mute your watch page.
Howdy.
So
Speaking of
we
delays,
agree. So we agree that the equator could be 25,000 miles, but it could also be a
Hello.
little bigger, a little smaller, right?
No, it's set in stone because of the radius.
Huh?
The equator is set in stone because of the claim of the apparent radius. You can't change it.
No, but
Wanna
you
see-
could travel. You could travel the line of the equator and take a measurement. No, but you could travel. You could travel the line of the equator and take.
Unorthodox, can you mute your watch
Who's
page?
doing that?
I want to suggest something, hopefully that can maybe clear this up for everybody.
Go ahead,
Give
Jay.
us an exact measurement of the equator. You just take the lines of longitude, which have consequence to the sun, the movement of the sun.
These guys
We
don't
have the
believe
time zones, which
Goody.
depend on these lines of longitude.
But these guys don't believe in longitude, latitude lines. They don't believe in that.
No,
That's
we
what
do
I'm trying-
believe him. We
I
just
do
don't
believe they do.
believe that there is a direct
don't think they
correlation
do.
between them and the shape of the Earth. It's just a correlation between the heavenly bodies and their angular positions and their pathways over the Earth and the longitude and the latitude. That is
Can
what
I-
has
can
been
I share my
established.
screen?
That is how they function. That's how they've been
At
determined.
this point, we're in a position where we're either going to lose the point on the Cavendish experiment being destroyed, or
It's not.
allow him to like bring up many different arguments and point and prove none of them. So do we go back to the Cavendish and finish that point, or do we?
Well,
I'd like to add something about the Cavendish experiment. The phenomenon that you observe is objects fall towards the most massive object in your presence, the Earth.
That's assuming that the Earth is a massive object then. Yeah, so again, we've got a presupposition from unorthodox. You assume that the Earth is a sphere with a radius and it's the most massive object, blah, 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 blah. Endless presupposition.
If they don't
No,
believe
there's
in,
no
they don't believe in
presupposition.
gravity.
I know they don't. They're just saying that
yeah.
they need a phenomenon, right?
I'm trying to get them to the point where they can see that masses attract masses, objects of mass.
I know. I was
before we
listening.
can get to that, you know.
Masses attract masses.
My point was just that they were saying that you have to have a phenomenon to observe to start the initial.
That's the
Yes,
easiest.
that's correct.
You know, that's the easiest one.
Step one in scientific methods. That's correct in
evidence to
orthodox. You
support
do have to have a phenomena to observe first. Yes, that's correct. Step one.
I'd like to say this gentleman, Milo, is doing a fantastic job. I presented 2 scientific proofs of gravity on your show. Now he's doing a 3rd one, and you guys are still saying it's BS.
No, you haven't.
No,
No,
we're gonna.
you didn't.
If we got to get to a point that you guys have to acknowledge that even on a flat Earth, objects of greater mass do attract objects.
No,
Please.
No, they don't.
no, they don't.
Proof, please.
They don't.
Okay, so but the thing is that you guys don't accept.
I'm asking.
No, you
for
have no proof.
evidence of your assertion.
You guys
The
don't
Cavendish
accept.
experiment is done in every university throughout the world.
Yeah,
Right,
self-fulfilling
right.
prophecy.
And I watched 5 university presentations.
Guys, the Cavendish experiment is some experiment that's been done as a result of an observed phenomena. What's the evidence of the phenomena that was observed to cause the Cavendish experiment to exist?
I just told you objects fall towards the most massive object around, i.e. the dirt, i.e. the ground, i.e. the earth.
Right, that's not.
There's your phenomenon.
Objects of mass
What?
each other. That's
All
just
right, but
You just have a
before we get to
direction.
that-
You don't have
Objects of
any,
mass
any
displace the air
proven
beneath them if
correlation
they
with
are more
mass
dense.
at all.
Oh,
That's it. That's
I
got
hate
nothing
that we
to do
got
with
off of the
objects of mass
equator.
attracting each other.
Fucking thing.
No, go
I
ahead,
wanted
go
to
ahead.
continue that.
Don't let me get you guys off here. And I'd just like also to say I'm gonna be done here, but I also like to say Nathan's trying to say you don't know the distances between continents. There are flights every single day with people on them. They know the speed, they know the time it takes. That gives you the distance perfectly.
Well, I'm trying to get them to see the absurdity of even questioning how accurate we are. But
Exactly.
There is no
People who've
absurdity in
arrived
that.
in port early. So Martin Liedtke would be one of them. So they know the hull speed. They can calculate exactly what time they should arrive in port, and they arrive early or late. So that would mean that the distance is either wrong, or I don't think they'd ever calculate the hull speed incorrectly. These things are life and death. So they calculate the hull
it's a
speed very
wobbly
accurately,
Earth.
and yet they arrive 2, 3 days, 4 days early. Well, that's just really crazy. Now, you can say that that's...
I don't even understand what you're saying,
I
Nathan.
don't believe anything
Try and
that you're saying
listen.
in the first
Try and
place.
listen. I'll say it again. Try and listen. So I've spoken specifically to a guy called Martin Liedtke who spent a lot of time in the Navy. And in his experience, they would arrive, this is echoed by other people who I haven't had direct contact with, that they would arrive in port early, days earlier than the expected arrival time, in spite of knowing the exact hull speed of the ship. The vessel they travelled on, they know the parameters well enough to know exactly what time they should arrive and estimate their arrival time, and yet they arrived early or late. So that would lead me to
They had a
believe
bad speedometer, is what you're saying?
No, hold up.
Right.
Even better.
stating
So
what
I
makes me.
have
I'm
a
just
friend with
giving
the
you an
opposite
explanation for
experience.
why
So now where
I
are
doubt
we?
the distances. That's it. I'm not saying I know the distances are wrong. I'm saying I doubt them for these reasons. I'm just giving you my
You don't
answer.
have any reason to doubt them. You have one anecdotal.
Yeah, like what argument do you think you're even making by saying I have a friend that told me something? What argument are you
Anecdotal
making,
evidence
dude?
that gives
So
you
what
my
argument
reasons
are you
because
making
we
when
are
you
in a
haven't got
massive
phenomenon that you
deception
can observe
and we have
Okay,
no.
so check this out.
I'm not
Do you
allowed to give
guys
you an answer
agree-
then, am I not? So you've asked me a question and you're just going to steamroll my answer.
Sorry.
We've already
It's not an
accepted that we don't have any accurate world map. There is no definitive world map that is accurate
No,
and
there's
scalable.
accurate globes, but there aren't accurate.
No, there
flat
isn't an
maps.
accurate globe. You show me one.
Show me an inaccurate one.
Show me an accurate one. You're the one making an assertion that you've got an accurate
me an
globe.
inaccurate
What a
one.
biggest load of nonsense I've ever heard in my life. Show me one. Considering on this panel we've debunked the Holy Grail, Google Earth, And this
No,
is now
you
poured
haven't.
stain upon by guys who say, you can't possibly use that as
Nathan.
proof of anything. Ha ha ha,
Nathan.
that's not our model. So you're going to tell me that you've got a working
What?
globe when even the
Yeah,
CGI
what?
rendering on a computer doesn't work. You haven't got a
Watch how
working
you-
globe. You're just talking
So watch-
nonsense. You haven't got a working
Okay.
model. There is no
Okay,
working
what-
model for the
Damn.
globe. You show me it.
Okay, watch how you just conflated two issues. The people that were saying that the Google Earth was inaccurate, they were talking about elevations. They weren't talking about the distances between oceans and cities. And
Who
that's
cares?
not what,
It's not accurate. Doesn't matter what area. You're saying you've got an accurate globe. Show it me.
yeah, it's accurate to demonstrate the distances between.
Sorry, you've just told me
states.
how that one's not accurate. Thank you for backing
No.
up my assertion. That's wonderful. Now show me the accurate one. Don't tell me about how it is accurate in a different area. Show me an accurate globe.
Are you not understanding?
Are you
what-
stuttering for a reason, or is it because I've got you? Yeah, there is no accurate globe. We don't have a working globe model. They've all been debunked. So unless you can shove one on screen right now, I would very much retract from this assertion that you have a working globe.
Google
You don't.
Earth. Google Earth. Yeah.
Oh, so you are going to assert that Google's accurate after literally telling the audience moments earlier how inaccurate
to
it
what?
is for a
When it
different
comes to what?
purpose. So it's not accurate
Nathan,
in
what-
one area. So therefore,
Nathan.
it's an inaccurate model.
Right, can I make a
Nathan,
request?
what are we trying to? No, hold up. What are we trying to find out, Nathan? Hold up.
You've just asserted you've got a working globe model. So show it. Let's have it up on screen right now. That's what I'm saying. If you want to say we've got a working globe model, when I'm asserting we have absolutely no representative world maps, none are accurate, none are completely concise, and you say we've got a working globe, show it.
No, you're conflating elevation and distance.
No, I'm saying working globe. Not a bit working in this area and a bit working in that area, but
A globe,
ultimately
yeah.
it's not really
Nathan.
working. That's not really our model when we don't want it to be
Nathan.
our model. When it's
There's no such thing
inaccurate,
as-
then we distance ourselves from that particular globe because in that instance it's inaccurate. Well, I want an accurate one.
Nathan, you can buy a globe and have it in your home, and it'll
Oh,
be accurate.
really? So now it's down to the level of asking us to go and buy toys.
No, it's an accurate.
by the model.
Oh, really? Are they
Nathan.
going to are the mariners that I talked about earlier with
No,
my
okay.
anecdotal evidence, are they buying these toy globes to travel across the oceans and know that they've got accurate distances between the continents? Is that what they do? They go to Woolworths and buy a bloody globe?
And Nathan, you're not
Yeah,
making.
you don't have to say my name 5 times, just acknowledge that your absolute horseshit assertion of having a working globe model has been thoroughly pissed all over.
Nathan, you're not making a point.
Yeah, I am. You don't have a working model. If you did, you wouldn't be telling me I don't have a point. You'd be shoving it up on screen. You don't. You're not. Because I have pissed all over this point.
No, the distance between London and New York is a known figure.
No, it isn't. That's my point. If it was a known figure, it would match on every single map in every single variation, but it doesn't. We've got multiple, thousands of different maps.
No.
And
'Cause it was-
anecdotally,
it could
people
only-
say they arrive in port early or late. So it would seem,
Anecdotes
given that we
would
don't
make
have
an
an
argument.
accurate world model in all areas, that I can assert we don't have an accurate one. That's easy
Make
to
an
assert
argument.
by
Make an
purely
argument.
by the absolute fact that we don't have one, because we don't.
What degree of accuracy would you like, Nathan? Would you like it down to the millimeter? Would you like it down to the
100%.
nanometer?
100%
Seriously.
accurate. Yeah, exactly. Hi, Arif. Is that really
To
you?
what
Hold on,
degree?
hold on. Is that you, Arif?
Yeah, I'm curious to what
Hold
degree
on.
he would like the accuracy.
you,
To a
Arif?
nanometer, to a millimeter.
100%.
You can't shut up long enough.
Armor wave. Say hello.
I've already kicked Arif because you can't keep quiet enough on the panel.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's one of those things. It's not your fault.
Nathan, okay, let's talk honestly. Your
I was
disagreement
talking
with
honestly. You asserted that you've got a working globe, and I've smashed it to pieces. So do you want to
No,
assert that?
man.
Do you want to address that? Or are you going to put it up on
you're
screen?
trying to bring the conversation to the inaccuracy in elevations shown on Google Earth when I'm
I don't
talking
care
about the distances
what
between.
inaccuracy it is. It is an inaccuracy. So it's not a working globe model then, right? It's inaccurate. I don't give a crap which area.
I wasn't proposing a working globe model. I was proposing a globe model that showed accurate.
So you weren't
distances
proposing a
between-
working globe model, you were proposing a globe model that. You're just talking
Yes.
nonsense now. You're literally talking double Dutch. Saying I wasn't proposing a globe
me-
model that, but I was proposing a globe model that. You're just
Nathan,
talking nonsense now.
You're not gonna, Nathan. You're not gonna find a map that shows weather as well as shows accurate distances between. You're not going to show a map that shows what.
Yeah, I'm not going to get a map that makes me a cup of coffee. Yeah, that's a really wonderful point you're making.
Yeah, exactly. So you need the right map. You might find a map that makes cups of coffee, but it might not do something else. You know?
Right. So it won't service my car. Wow, this is such a wonderful conversation about the inaccuracy of all the maps that we don't have that are accurate.
Are any of you guys into construction or anything? Have you ever seen a floor plan or anything like that?
Yeah, man. We see orthographic views of the world all the time whenever we compare them to photographs of the world. It's amazing how many times we get to see orthographic views. And
so
orthographic
in construction,
calculations.
would you see the benefits?
We get orthographic calculations every time we compare photography. It's amazing.
So hold up.
It's
in
all
construction,
flat.
would you hold up? In construction, would you see the benefits of having an orthographic view, an elevation view, and a bird's eye view of the same
Yeah,
place?
it's lovely. It's
Yeah, it's
very
beautiful,
handy.
really handy for when you're constructing things.
So now if you were to rely on one of those plans, you could see the problem in doing that, right?
Nah, we're not doing those plans. We're taking photographs of things, of just random shit that we see.
No, you're looking at the bird's eye. Hold up. You're looking at the bird's eye view of a construction plan and asking
of and sizes of
just explain this
so
to
you
you.
can
We don't
construct them
see that.
properly and check them very easily. If you do that in a perspective view, you'd get to see how the thing would actually look in reality. But it's not very handy to check for all the building parts. So that's why they use orthographic view, because it's much more handier for construction processes.
Yeah, exactly.
check
It's
this
handy
out.
for construction. Can you stop talking? It's handy for construction, not handy for comparison to photographs. It's just what all you guys who use these orthographic calculations have been doing. That's why we're holding you to account for it and demanding retractions for all the errors that have been made when using these planning views when we're comparing to actual reality in photographs. It's incredible.
Yes, what you guys are doing is looking at a bird's eye view map of a property and asking the contractor, why doesn't it show elevations? Do you understand that you need a different map for that?
Nobody
that's not
would
what
be
we're doing.
asking
We
that.
show
It's
photographs of the
ridiculous.
world. But we never present a bird's eye view and ask why we're not seeing elevations in our building plan. That's not what we present. Have you ever presented a building plan, Arwin?
Presented one?
I don't think I've ever presented a building
as
plan.
a
What about
hobbyist,
Anthony?
I
Anthony,
did
have you ever presented a
design
building
3D
plan,
objects
Anthony? Have you ever presented blueprints, or do you just present photography?
Can I just let everybody know that this guy's doing what?
Yeah, I have.
Every
I have
time
been doing things with blueprints and everything, but it's just hobby stuff.
Arwin, give me a minute. I want everyone in chat to realise that he's doing what Rumpus does, which is every time Nathan speaks, he speaks over him, and that way I don't even know what's being said from Nathan to him, and the point never gets addressed. Please stop interrupting Nathan and answer the points that he makes, and then we can have a conversation.
Anthony, I would address any point he makes, but he's not making any points. He's not addressing my points. We've already hold up. We've already agreed that different maps can be used for different things, and you won't see every single thing on every single map. You know what I'm saying? There's not an all-encompassing map.
That's our
There's
point.
a map for this. There's
That's
a
our
map
point.
for that.
That's our point.
And you're supposed to take it as a collective, dude. It's the same. It's a map describing the same thing.
Oh,
So now,
really?
if we're looking for distances between states and oceans and cities, Google Earth does a good job of doing that.
Does it really?
Now, yes, it does.
That's fascinating. It's a shame it's not an actual working model that does everything.
It's not, because
No.
it doesn't claim to be.
Nah. Do you have one that's an actual working one?
That's not the point. The point is that.
Oh, sorry. So that's not the point. So my point is just not the point, is it? You don't have a working model, but that's not a point, apparently.
Working in what regard, Nathan?
We were talking about the equator. Hold up. We were talking about the equator.
In all regards.
And now you want to move on to a working model.
Yeah. All regards.
We're moving on to we're going to stick to the equator and the distances.
Why can't we conclude the Cavendish point?
Yeah.
Because you guys don't accept any testings of this claim. So
well, no, we're trying to establish first of all what the observed phenomena is. Yeah.
You guys don't accept the test of the claim. So what is wrong with you guys?
There is no observed phenomena to base the experiment on.
Arwin illustrated an observed phenomena, but you guys are saying that somehow this is invalid because the masses involved are dust and a shelf, and I don't understand how. And you earlier said that dust has no mass.
Do I need to explain again?
Which is crazy.
Do I need to explain again to you
how did I
why
let you get by?
dust actually
has no
sticks
mass.
to a surface? Do we need to
Shut
explain
up.
it to you again? It's because the mass is low enough for the surface tension to actually be able to work. Because if the mass of the total object is too big, then it no longer applies. It's not gravity. It's because of the lack of mass that it actually is attracted to something else, not because of its mass. It's ridiculous to assert that effect
You're misrepresenting his argument.
But hold up. Actually, he's making my point because he's showing that he wouldn't even know what he's talking about unless he tested it. Armin, have you tested that to prove anything?
Yeah, I have.
Exactly.
What would you see in real life?
So have you varied the mass between the objects to see if the same effect occurs? You haven't. So how would you know if you don't scale it?
I did this stuff in school over 20 years ago.
Okay, so you tried to do, you did it with dust, and then you did it with you did it with dust, and then you scaled the object
and rocks. The dust would actually move sidewards towards an object and stick to it. The sand would kind of wave slightly in the direction, and the finer particles would stick to the object. The stones would just fall straight down.
Hey, good to have you.
Now, Aaron, you said this is impossible if the objects in the experiment had a larger mass. Now, you haven't tested that to say that conclusively. That is my point.
He just said he had. Did you not hear him?
He hasn't. No, he hasn't.
Yeah, I did. I just explained it.
He literally just said he had and explained it. So, was it because you kept on saying Arwin, Arwin, Arwin over the top that you didn't hear him? What's the problem?
No, he didn't increase the mass in his experiment. He hasn't.
Yeah, I did.
He just either deaf
so how'd you do that,
ignorant.
Arwin? How'd you do that?
I used dust. Then I increased the mass of the particles to sand, and then I used stones.
So sand?
Yeah, sand.
Right.
It's a less fine-grained form of dust, basically.
Right.
Get it?
And did you control any of the variables needed to show any force between
these
objects?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the distance to the object that it was supposed to stick to.
No, did you control? Okay, sand falls right to the earth.
About as valid as the Cavendish experiment, but yeah, there we go. He's debunked it with something about as scientifically valid as your Cavendish experiment. So if you don't like it, tough luck. You know, his pseudoscience is no more valid than yours.
You're not controlling for any variables in that
right, and his pseudoscience is no more or less valid than your pseudoscience.
Let me talk to Armin because he's trying to make sense. At least he's trying to make sense.
Wait, I have a question for Armin, just real quick. What did you suspend the grain of sand with?
That's what I was going to ask, but yep.
Suspend? We didn't suspend. We dropped it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
that's
yet,
the problem.
The dust did actually float towards the object.
How'd you isolate?
How do you know Earth has gravity? Aren't you presupposing
slightly
that?
moved towards it, and the rock dropped straight down.
On the Earth, dude.
Right, we're back to the Cavendish experiment. So we've got the presupposition established. Well done, Arwin. Well done, plain truth.
We can't hear you, Nathan.
Yeah. So
now we can.
We've got the.
No, we can now.
If you do that again, I'm gonna kick you out. You're just being a twat. Yeah, asshole.
Are you talking to me, Nathan?
Yeah, the asshole here, you.
Whoa.
Nathan, he's being very respectful.
Do you really believe that mass attracts mass on the scale that you're talking about?
Why wouldn't you believe that? Everything, that's what all the evidence shows, right?
No, I never see anything attracting
evidence shows. My evidence
dust
is
floating
real
around
light.
the air is just a load of nonsense. I don't see anything attracting anything else, ever.
Objects.
But
yeah,
isn't it
I
odd
walk
that
out into the world, I don't see objects attracting to other objects. It doesn't happen unless there's magnetism involved. Or we're talking about
think of how big the objects you're trying to think about are in relationship to the Earth. They're absolutely minuscule in regard to the Earth, if it's flat or if it's round.
The problem with this entire scenario,
so then again, it comes back down to scale. We just can't detect it because it's too small. Just like we can't feel the Earth moving because it's too big. You don't see how every argument has to come down to the ridiculous scale that we just can't measure.
How is that ridiculous? It makes perfect logical sense.
It's always cancelling out the effect that we're saying you don't see. So we're saying there's no observed phenomena. and you're saying, oh, well, it's cancelled out by this and it's cancelled out by that, and it's always an elusive thing that's being cancelled out. In other words, nonsense.
I think the correct word is imaginary.
Why you just can't see that in real life? Where would you even come
just do it the way that
Cavendish experiment?
Hey, Peanuts, can you hear us?
Okay,
Hey.
Listen, the thing that's going on right here is all of these experiments that we're talking about, regardless if it's Cavendish or if it's whatever, the ultimate issue is you are doing the experiment to justify and prove R. That's why you're doing it.
No.
Yes.
No,
yes.
absolutely not.
No.
Yeah.
In this case, it's
Okay,
G.
you tell me.
You're wrong.
No,
It's
no,
G
no.
in this case.
No,
It's
you
a
tell me why
justification.
Cavendish did his experiment. What was he trying to prove?
It doesn't matter why he did it.
He was trying to
Yeah,
prove.
it does.
He's trying to prove
Yeah, it does.
sphere
Of
Earth.
course,
He's
that was-
doing it to
no,
weigh
he's-
the Earth as a sphere. Same as
It
he
doesn't
can weigh
matter.
Mars as a sphere, or the Sun as a sphere. It uses
That's
a
not why I'm doing it.
presuppositional
Nathan,
value
if I
of
punch you in the
R.
face, does it really matter
And it
the
comes
reason
up with
why I
the G.
punched you in the
See,
face?
you guys
I'm
are
not saying-
assholes. You all talk over us whenever we come to a damning point like this. Yeah?
No, it's
Yeah,
not
I did-
damning at all because it doesn't matter why he did it. The fact is that the
Hero,
objects attracted each other. That's
Yeah, the fact is, we've conjured it, man, and this shows it. It shows it being conjured. So there you go. It's fulfilling
So
its
what-
own.
so-
It's fulfilling its own
Nathan.
destiny. It's amazing.
So Nathan, why the objects are attracting each other? Why?
They're not.
But they are though.
It's the
No,
whole
no,
point,
not.
Milo.
I
Even
They're
if
don't
not
see that. That never
attacking each
happens. I never
other.
experience it. It never happens. Things fall to the ground. Heavy stuff displaces the air that's far less dense. That's it. That's
Right.
all I observe.
Right, but when you dangle two balls next to each other,
We don't
one
do
of
that.
larger-
Yeah.
We
When
don't
you
do
dangle
that.
two
If you
balls.
do-
But when
if
you
you
dangle
do-
two
all men
balls at
do
the
that,
Ball Earth
okay?
Circus, man, it all becomes clear. Everything becomes clear when you dangle
Guys,
two balls.
all men dangle their two balls next to each other. Come on.
These guys are ball obsessed.
Oh my god.
This is like me coming to you with two magnetic rocks and me saying to you, hey, look, these rocks have a force on each other. Let me show you. And you just saying, no, I don't want to see it. I've never seen rocks attract
But
each
no,
other.
you're not doing that. That's a false equivalency.
Well, what if you show that?
You show us two
nothing
rocks that don't have magnetism attracting
me
each
that
other, and you go, oh, well, they don't do that. But if I suspend them from string, forget all the air pressure. That don't matter. We don't need to isolate any of that stuff. No,
control
no.
variables. You have to control variables. That's
Right, you have to control variables, right. But you don't do that. You don't have step one. You know, you're into controlling variables in the experiment. You can't formulate a hypothesis until you've got an observed phenomena. And you're saying, well, if you were to see two electromagnetic balls attracting each other, you'd say they weren't. Well, no, we're saying we don't see objects of mass attracting itself. So horseshit, it's just nonsense.
You do.
Nathan, what's
show me where.
wrong with my
Where?
other phenomenon?
Where
Where do we see this?
Where do we see it,
object
Milo?
around Earth?
Where?
What's wrong
Please
with
tell
that?
me where. Show me.
Cue the
Please
mic
tell me
dropping.
where.
I
Cue
just
the
picked
mic.
up a pencil and I dropped
Look,
it.
my mic drops towards the mass of the Earth. There you go, proven.
What's wrong with that logic?
Well,
What's wrong with that
it is
logic? Oh my god. The mic's heavy. The
No,
mic's heavy and it
Let's go with
displaces
that.
the air beneath
No,
it.
what's wrong with the logic?
Nathan, let's
the
go with
object falls towards the most massive object around. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, let's go with it. as an
Why
observed
is
phenomenon,
that?
object
Why
with
is
a
that?
pole with-
Makes perfect sense if you presume gravitational pull, yeah.
So we drop a helium balloon and it goes to the mass of the Earth.
No,
does
we're
it?
just observing a phenomena.
Yeah, the mass of the Earth attracts the helium balloon, does it?
That's not what we're talking about, Nathan.
Yeah,
Here we are. We're talking about
Do you know
mass.
the equation for
versus
buoyancy?
mass.
I can tell you exactly what
Oh,
it is.
sorry.
Yeah,
Does that
but
get
it's-
defeated by some sort of other argument? Oh, density. Oh, of course. Sorry. Let's forget about that as well. Let's brush over that quickly. Forget it.
Density is not a
Forget I ever
problem.
mentioned it.
Density is not a
Forget I
problem.
mentioned it.
Argument there.
Density is not relevant.
Changes
It
as
doesn't
you go
matter
up,
that the
right?
object you're
So it doesn't
dropping
make
through the
sense.
very thin air is more dense, and that helium
Density is
doesn't
not a
attract
force.
towards the mass of Earth, the biggest mass ever. The thing that's so massive, you would think it would overcome the power of helium. Alas, no. The helium balloon goes up away from the Earth, doesn't it? But we'll just dance over that quick, sharp. Forget I ever mentioned it. It's not that relevant. It's not that important, I'm sure.
Wait, hold on, Nathan.
Density is
Do
not-
I'll
objects
finish.
float in water? Do objects float in water? Does
No.
buoyancy exist on top of
We can't have
water?
a conversation about
Sorry,
buoyancy
what?
unless you allow us to have a conversation about density as well.
Does what
Right.
float
Well-
on water?
What you guys are ignoring is that neither one are forces.
Yeah, they are.
Well,
They're
the
not,
buoyant
though.
force, right?
They are. It's the second.
No,
Isn't it
density and buoyancy are
thermodynamics?
effects.
Every
They're not
object will have an equal
forces.
and opposite reaction. So if there's a movement one way, there will be a movement the other way, and we know that things will go up if you let go of helium balloons.
Milo, I don't know. You mind if I just wanted to bring up what we were saying about gravity? I do have to say first that density is not a force at all. The force that's bringing the helium balloon up is the atmosphere coming down due to whatever downforce you want to call it. Gravity is
that's called displacement, right?
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to go back to what we were saying about the gravity and the test that we never observe it. We can just go back to the way that it was, the way that we tried to measure it before Cavendish was trying to. He wasn't trying to prove it. He was trying to get a precise measurement for what this number was. When we first measured it, we measured it by first not understanding why, Jupiter's moons and the planets were moving the way they were moving, and then suggesting this thing gravity, and then proving it with their measurements, now explaining why these movements make sense and the force behind that, where before there was no force.
That is ridiculous.
You turned them off once you start talking about Jupiter. That's the thing. That's the
that's how it was discovered.
Yeah, but we have to learn how to talk to these guys, because once you start talking about Jupiter, they turn off.
Milo, could I ask you a question? What was your motivation for coming in today?
Well, because it's kind of frustrating hearing you talk to globe earthers, and they almost don't know how to pin you down on anything, and a lot of things gets. Excuse me.
Nobody sent you in. You came in on your own volition, completely unpushed by anybody.
Yeah, this would probably be my third hangout total in my life.
It seems that you've got the same MO.
I'm just perplexed that these globers start out about how originally before Cavendish, gravity was determined based on the heavenly bodies, because what I learned in school was that basically an apple dropped from a tree on Newton's head, and that is how he determined gravity.
Yep, that's what I heard.
That's where it started.
That's okay.
So I don't know where all these heavenly bodies come in, but I think that's more like the Einstein era, because I don't think that before the 20th century they actually really pursued all this heavenly body physicality and all that stuff. They didn't really get into that because they realized they had no proof.
Oh my God.
So they had to fabricate some more. And that is where Cavendish
they got to come up with more interesting stories, because all they have is apples falling from trees and balls in a shed and sticks in the ground. In 2018, that's what we got.
Instead of just asserting that these things are fake, these things are wrong, these things don't have any basis to even be tested, how about you guys test the claim and discredit it that way? It's the easiest way to discredit these things.
How about we use common sense, man? How about we use common sense? When I walk out into the world,
that's not how you discredit things.
No, it's the extrapolation that we reject.
That's how we navigate in the world.
No, common sense is not an argument. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. That's
what the
not an
Cavendish
argument.
experiment shows, what is derived from the outcome of the Cavendish experiment, is the weight of Earth and the weight of every planet in the solar system. That is what they derive from this nonsense.
No, that's not what they do. That just shows that you don't understand this experiment.
Excuse me, the G constant was derived from this experiment, and it is that gives you the mass of all the planets, including Earth. The apparatus itself was designed to weigh the mass of the Earth. That is its intended purpose. Do not tell me I am wrong. I am correct. That is its intended purpose. The Cavendish experiment was designed to weigh the mass of the Earth. That's its purpose. Okay?
No, the conclusion of the Cavendish experiment is that objects of large mass attract objects of lesser mass.
And from that is derived all of your equations that give you the mass of every planet, including Earth. Everything in the solar system is derived from the value attained from the Cavendish experiment. That is how you know how much Mars weighs. That is how you know how Jupiter is made up of so much mass. That is how you calculate the weight of Earth. That is how you use the... What do you mean, no?
Because you're saying that from the conclusion of the Cavendish, this and this happened. But
yes, G. That's what you got. Yeah? You get G from balls in a shed.
No,
stupid idiot.
That's not the result of the Cavendish, though.
That is what the value they derived from this experiment
That's
is.
what they derived from the conclusion of the Cavendish, but the conclusion...
Exactly, that's my point. And from that conclusion and derived value, you weigh Mars. You complete buffoons. You've got this religion with sticks in the ground giving you R and balls from sheds giving you the weights of everything in the solar system. You're so stupid to believe this nonsense. It's untrue.
Or you could just go to the beach, Nathan, and watch a ship go over the horizon.
The thing is that Nathan is conflating what was derived. Hold up, Nathan is conflating what was derived.
Do you believe that balls in a shed can give you the weight of Earth?
Nathan.
Do you believe that balls in a shed can give you the weight of Earth?
I'm going to make my point.
No, answer my question. Do you believe that it is possible to get the weight of Earth from balls in a shed?
Nathan, is that the conclusion of the Cavendish?
Yes.
Or is that what was derived? No, it wasn't. It's not. You're wrong.
Yes.
You're wrong.
That is what the purpose of the apparatus is for. To weigh Earth. That's its purpose.
Wrong. I'm sorry.
You are an idiot. That's what you are. And I'm sick of this conversation. You're telling us about Cavendish, comparing it to dust, which is farcical, and you don't even know what Cavendish is being used for.
No, you're saying that what it was derived from and its conclusion is the same thing, and it's not. Whatever.
The Cavendish experiment gives you the tools to weigh the Earth. That is what its purpose was.
The tool did not weigh the Earth.
Of G and the Earth's mass. It's in freaking
not
Wikipedia.
Understanding.
Right, you're an idiot.
No, look, you're taking.
Oh, he's just giving it you from Wiki.
Look it up, man. You don't even know.
Sod off and Google it, you buffoon. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Yeah, your religion is based on this horse shit, and you don't even understand it.
You're taking what was derived from the conclusion and saying that that was the conclusion.
Yeah, and you're making
I read from Wikipedia on the definition of the Cavendish experiment.
What was the conclusion of the Cavendish experiment?
It gave you
that mass
G
attracts
constant.
mass.
It gave you what you use to weigh every planet and the Earth. I've said it about 5 times.
What we use.
Maybe it might be better if you presented someone on screen and showed him it exactly.
I don't need to show him. This nonsense is where you derive this from, and you can accept it or not. I don't care. I don't accept this nonsense. If he wants to go and verify his own religious belief while I tell him 5 times, that's his bag. In the meantime, if he wants to tell me I'm wrong, that's fine too. I don't care. I'll just laugh.
You're conflating 2 different things now.
Off.
Jay, go ahead. Jay, clarify, because I'm just going to say some things.
I just want to say that I think you're both kind of slightly off, not by far, but because the conclusion of the test was both to find this big G, but also made the weight of the Earth more precise.
Sorry, so it was a tool for weighing the Earth? Exactly as I just asserted? For the love of God.
That's what I'm saying. You're both a little bit in the right direction, but both...
No, I'm absolutely 100% correct. Not a little bit in the right direction. I'm right. This Muppet doesn't understand his own religion.
No, he is correct, though. He is correct about finding the big G.
Yeah, that's what I said. He's not correct about that. He doesn't realise that G is used to weigh the entire universe, including the very ground beneath our feet, because he doesn't understand his own religion. Like most of you Muppets.
The weight of the Earth.
Sorry,
he said
Nathan,
that wasn't the reason why the experiment was
Skype
done.
Yeah, it was designed to weigh the mass of the Earth. That's what it's for. I've just said
it was used to show the relation, the force between masses.
Yeah.
Yes, and
that's
it
what it was
also
used
says
for.
it was the first experiment to
And
produce
then maybe with that we could measure the
values
Earth's
for the
gravitational
gravitational constant.
That's not the conclusion.
And the
And
mass
Earth's
density of
Yeah,
the Earth.
that's a neat little twofer there. You get both.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't
2
get
for 1.
you don't get
Pretty
the
clever,
Quote
right?
again
This
from
amazing what
Wikipedia on the
pseudoscience can give
Cavendish
the world.
experiment.
Find the
Couple of
circumference
balls in a shed
Derivation
and it
of
gives you the
G
entire
and the
universe.
Earth's
Amazing.
mass.
Milo, you can look it up
Nathan,
in
if you
2
present my
seconds. Your
screen
argument
for a
is done.
second, I can show them.
Milo, you can look it up in 2 seconds. Your argument is done. Nathan is right.
Arwen, do you want to just read it out one more time? Just so it's all clear, because they're non-stop talking over the top of basically what Wiki is saying, which is the same as what I'm saying. But these guys want to deny it, so just read it again.
Okay, it's a big page with lots of stuff in it. How they do the setup, how they do the measurements, and then basically a conclusion part. And the title of it is Derivation of G and the Earth's Mass.
Right, derivation of G and the Earth's mass. The intended purpose of the apparatus.
Can we show it on screen, Nathan, please?
Just a wiki
I
page.
know it's a pain in the ass, but it is better if we prove these numpties wrong.
No,
Fine.
that's the thing. That's what I was telling to you guys, that you're both not.
I am presented if you want to present me.
This number was already, estimated. All the planets.
You presented
400 years ago, made more precise to now using experiments like this one.
Guys,
afterwards, they became more precise.
And you believe that, and you truly believe that all the
read the first line of the wiki, not half a page
this
down.
guy came up with
Yeah, listen, the following is not the method Cavendish used, which shows how modern physicists would calculate the results from his experiment.
Do you actually know who did that before Cavendish?
It doesn't
or was
matter.
it just
you guys are wrong.
Wet finger work speculation by a bunch of heliocentrist believers?
Not speculation, it's an experiment. It's not speculation, it's an experiment.
Not an experiment. I don't know how many
what
times
you
I've
guys
got to
just
say
showed
it.
on the screen did not support anything you just said.
What are you talking about?
This is the stuff I'm talking
I said
about.
it's used to weigh the mass of the Earth
Present.
and derive G, the thing that gives you the values of everything in the entire solar system. That's what I said.
Put it up again. Put it up again.
No! Stop making demands. Shut up. Don't demand anything of me.
Show where it's wrong.
Yeah, put it up again. Show us.
And I'll show you exactly where you're wrong.
No, you show it where it's wrong. You're the one claiming that it's wrong, so do it.
Look, my thing is that the conclusion of the Cavendish experiment was not to prove the Earth's mass. It was to prove that masses attracts mass.
Right, and from there it was.
And from I haven't disagreed with that.
Seconds, you can see that.
Disagreed with that.
No, he hasn't disagreed with that.
Nathan has been saying that that's what's the conclusion.
It's been obfuscated to death because it sounds really
by Nathan.
Not at all. Our objection is there is no phenomena to observe. We don't experience mass attracting mass. So to assert it and conjure it and then call it an experiment and then derive a value that you can weigh the solar system with is absurd.
Nathan, you said that the conclusion of the Cavendish experiment was to weigh the mass of the Earth, which is
and that's in the title on the wiki page.
I'm glad you're doubling down. Now bring it up again.
Milo.
I'm glad you're doubling down. Bring it up again.
What part?
You're calling him a liar. You should be the one showing how Nathan's wrong, not Nathan showing how he's himself wrong.
You guys just put it up.
I've got the screen right here. If somebody wants to present me, I've got the wiki page of the Cavendish experiment right here on screen.
Yeah, present it.
Don't present his page.
No, don't present it. You don't want to.
No, not yours.
It's the Cavendish experiment, the same exact wiki page.
I got it presented again, Nathan, if you want to entertain them.
No, because you guys are wrong, and I'll read exactly where you're wrong. Scroll
Start
down.
from the beginning, the first paragraph.
There you go, Arwen, you're on.
Go ahead, yeah.
Right, so let me just read out for those who can't really read this, because it's maybe too small. Cavendish experiment performed in 1797 to 1798 by British scientist Henry Cavendish. It's the first experiment to measure the force of gravity between masses in the laboratory in a shed, and the first to yield accurate values for the gravitational constant. Because of the unit conventions then in use, gravitational constant does not appear in explicitly in Cavendish's work. Instead, the result was originally expressed as the specific gravity of the Earth, or the equivalently the mass of the Earth. His experiment gave the first accurate values for these geophysical constants. It's the first sentence. It's the first sentence in the page. So.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are wrong based on the first sentence
How
of the
are you
page.
saying exactly?
What's hilarious is that went over Arwen's head, that the first sentence of this page proved him wrong. This is
the context of that
you guys are so
How?
dishonest.
How does it
that
prove
things like
me
this,
wrong?
you guys
You're
read it out
exactly
loud to
what I've been
yourselves,
stating.
and it goes over your
You're
head.
out of your mind.
You guys want to take this as something you can use to weigh the mass of the planets, then that's your bag. Fair enough.
But
Believe
was
whatever
it
you
the
wanna believe.
conclusion of Cavendish's experiment, or was it not? Who was right?
That's what it's used for. That's what I asserted. The
That's,
derived
no,
value.
that's not what the conclusion is, though. That's not what the conclusion was, though. Right? Was it?
Oh, really?
I asserted
What
that
is
the
the
derived
conclusion?
value is used
Are you saying that
for
Wiki
the
is
weighing
wrong?
of planets. I'm not making any concession, any retraction.
No,
I'm not wrong.
this is-
What I have asserted is correct. It's been backed up by what
Look.
Wiki says. It's used to weigh the mass of the Earth. That's
And
simple
I haven't
fact.
disagreed with that.
That's what it's used
Milo,
for.
they're just trying to
It doesn't
obfuscate so you
none
don't
of this
move on to
obfuscation
more-
changes anything. None of this changes the fact that Cavendish is utter nonsense. It's a sideshow circus trick that proves nothing, is not a valid experiment, and in absolutely no way can it be used, derived values or otherwise, to weigh anything ever. It's utter
Hey, Nathan.
and total nonsense. Go on, Owen.
Hey Nathan, I found something really fun at the bottom of the page under within the definitions that were used in the calculation formulas applied by Cavendish. Guess what I found?
Oh, is it
R.
A value of R? What a
Owen.
shot.
Yeah,
Owen,
it's in
Owen,
there.
Owen,
Of course.
Owen, let me ask
I'm
you a
still
question.
presenting R. It's
There we
right
go.
there. Radius of
Owen.
Earth.
Oh, so it uses a presupposition, guys. Oh, what a shame. What a
No, it
shame.
doesn't. Let
Do you
me- let me
guys,
ask you-
just
let me
before we
ask
go
you a
any
question.
further about this Cavendish, it's got an R value, guys.
It
Have you got
uses
scientific
common
evidence for the R
knowledge,
value that he
Nathan.
presupposes?
Yeah, the distance around. the-
I don't think this is going to be anything like scientific evidence now, is it? Are we going to
the
be traveling
distance
in
around
boats on the equator?
The distance around the equator.
Are we going
is
around the
the
equator?
circumference.
What a shock. Yeah, I love it. This sounds scientific.
Why would it need to be scientific?
This is so funny.
Oh, because you guys claim to be backed by science. This was all very
Why would it need to
scientific
be
sounding up
scientific?
until now, wasn't it? Why does it need to be science? Because up until now we were talking about scientific experiments with me repeatedly telling you that they're not scientific. So why would we need a scientific evidence of R? Well, because that would be who you are backed by, right? Science.
All right.
All this pseudo-science that we've just
why would
looked
you-
at
why would you
isn't
say
science, though, is it, lads?
Hold up.
No
This is-
science
this is-
Why
involved.
would you
This
say?
is how dumb
Why
these
would we
guys are.
use
This
science?
is how, hold up.
Why
Hold
would
up,
we
this is
need
how dumb these
science
guys
to
are.
talk about the globe?
This-
Why would we
Are you
need
kidding
science? I mean, we've only had 2,000 years of science backing us. It's not that the whole body of science backs this assertion. Why would we need science?
I'm not talking about a scientific fact. I'm talking.
Now, I know you're not talking about a scientific fact. We know for sure that's not the case. Yeah, you haven't got any science to back this nonsense. The globe, it's nonsense. It doesn't have any scientific validity. It doesn't have any scientific backing. And you will never, ever provide any scientific evidence of R because there is none.
That's okay,
He
Jay.
just gave
It isn't okay. Your religion is based on this, and the entire worldview is that we are living on a sphere. So it's not okay. It's far from okay. We're living in a world of deception, with people asserting that we've got science for stuff when they have bulls in sheds. People asserting that we've got science for stuff when we've got sticks in the ground. And it's not science. It's nonsense.
It's called intelligence and
It's
cleverness.
not called intelligence. It's called stupidity. It's called deception. It's called people like you being ignorant and stupid enough to swallow this stuff whole without giving it any critical thought.
Let Milo proceed, Nathan. You guys have obfuscated this point to hell. Let Milo proceed.
I haven't obfuscated anything. We've shown that you've got a circus trick and you claim it's science. And then when we get to the real nitty-gritty of it, like every single presuppositional nonsense proof you ever present here, it's based on a presuppositional value of R, like everything. And there's no science backing this shit. None.
Do you want to know how I know it's not presupposed? Do you want to know how I know any of this stuff?
It's in the equation. What are you talking about not presupposed? We've just asked you for your scientific evidence of it. It's just there, sat there like a big fat turd, sat in a punch bowl, stinking up the party, saying, hey guys, I'm just here. I'm just assumed. It's all good. You don't need to worry about proving me. Just stick me in the equation. I'll be good. I'll just do my job and prove the world's a sphere already, because it's got an R value. Don't need no science, man. Just stick me in here and the world will be a sphere automatically. No other science needed. It's a brilliant number. Just stick it in. Works a treat every time. And people fall for it.
Hello? I've removed that Milo because A, he was getting on my nerves, continuously talking over Nathan. B, asked J Farrell.
Oh, man.
And C, there's only 5 minutes left and there's nothing left to benefit because it's not going anywhere this
Hey,
hangout.
Dem.
So,
No.
J Farrell, make your point, sir.
Can you hear us, Dem?
He was doing a pretty fine job, I must admit.
Doing what? What was he doing a fine job with? Please tell me.
Of
Where was he
illustrating the
proving
Cavendish
Nathan wrong
experiment.
at any point?
No, he didn't. When presented with the evidence of what the Cavendish experiment did, the Cavendish experiment did two things. It established a claim that there was an attraction between masses, but that then was extrapolated to provide the little g gravitational constant, which was then used to formulate the gravity of the mass of the Earth and all the other solar system bodies. So Nathan wasn't wrong,
and he was only trying to acknowledge the first one, where masses attract other masses. Now, when Nathan is telling him that they got the whole mass of the Earth from that,
you have the mic.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, I basically just wanted to. I don't know that Milo guy. He made some good points, and I had said this the other day about the equator, and I would have just gone a little quicker with it, just because we kind of have to agree on this one here, because there's no other. There's nothing to. I know that Nathan said that there's distances that are off, but I've never seen evidence of this. And actually, there's only evidence that it's actually pretty close to
like I asked
correct.
him.
I'm sorry?
In real life, can I ask you, like I asked him, in real, where have you seen mass attracted to other mass?
Yeah, right. And so, yeah, this test, the Cavendish experiment, it wasn't to establish this. It was kind of understood. It was to make this, or to maybe prove it more and to get it more precise, exactly what this number, this big G was.
But where
and the
would
density
he have
of the Earth. And these numbers, they came in and they fit with the numbers we already had. And they just made them more precise.
Oh, really? And where did those numbers come from then? Where did those numbers come from?
Circumference of the Earth and the area of the sphere. Yeah, the size of the sphere. It was, like I said, these numbers.
All these masses of the planets. Where did those values come from, previous to Cavendish?
From 2,500 years of measurements. That were corrected and made more precise as time went on.
So the people on the Earth in a pre-space travel age measured the weight of the planets in the solar system.
With so many
really fascinating.
Commercial, or
really
like the East India Trading Company going back and forth from Africa to the U.S. and there's plenty of probably millions of trips back and forth.
Yeah, real cool. Travel over the Earth. Yeah, how does travel over the Earth prove the masses of presumed planetary bodies in the solar system millions of miles away?
The radius of the Earth. He's saying it made the radius of the Earth more precise.
Yeah, exactly. For the equator, that size has to be. I mean, we have to agree on this. Otherwise, maybe it's a mile off, 2 miles off, but it's not.
I don't think so. I don't think we have to agree on anything.
Do you really believe this, bro? Do you believe that they can measure the mass? Like somebody could tell me the mass of Neptune off of something done here on the planet? In a boat?
Yeah, we have pretty clever guys doing it. I actually was explaining. I tried to explain the other day about how we could find the size of the moon and the sun and the distances. I only got as far as the radius of the Earth and the mass. Shut down.
We're talking across the world through a structure and transmitting things through the airways, and you think it's preposterous that they could calculate the mass of a planet?
The mass of the heavenly bodies just through observation.
Like I said, it's because of guys like Cavendish and then Newton before him and all these different people who did these experiments, did these tests, and made these numbers more precise. And we have guys still working on the same stuff, these same exact things. And Pluto was only discovered the past 100 years or so, and then it was classified or moved down as a planet because numbers were made more and more precise. Things get understood more and more clearly. It's never the case, or it hasn't really been the case, where something comes up and it's like, oh wait, the planet's actually way different size than
a lot, but you're not
so many
saying
trips were dependent on these
experiments they used before the 20th century to measure the mass of the planetary bodies through sheer observation. Can you please explain me how that experiment works?
Yeah, sure. Well, I tried to the other day, but let's just assume now, so we don't have to go over it again. We're right about the equator. We can just use the radius of that. Just
going back to the equator.
Sorry,
move on.
No, we don't just assume that we have a radius of a sphere. That's not something we do.
Well, no, but it's just to answer his question. It's not.
Anyone can measure a mass with sheer observations of something they can never touch. How do you do that? It's really fascinating to me. How do you measure the mass of something that you can only see and never touch?
Sure, because it has an effect on the other objects in the universe.
Exactly. The sun and the moon have an intimate relationship with each other, and over time, this becomes at least understood enough to know there's phases of the moon, and if you
that's really
see them
cool,
both the
all
same
these
size as the
observations, but
sky,
how do you measure its mass through
I'm about to tell you.
observation?
So yeah, you see both their objects of the same size in the sky, so you understand that they have another intimate relationship.
Yeah,
and then
but
you realize
what
that
if
the moon
these
has
objects
phases.
had different
Do
densities?
you understand the relationship?
What if the objects had
You
different
understand this
densities?
relationship?
Then the mass would be quite off, wouldn't it? How would you
So
determine its exact
if you want me to
density?
skip a whole bunch of steps, I'll
by
do that.
sheer
Can I
observation.
say something, you guys, just to,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right,
basically,
let me just ask a couple of things. Right? Listen, I don't know how many of you have travelled all over the world. How many of you have kind of gone to nearly all the countries bit to bit, and then like maybe added up the distance? Because if you add up the distance, and I can do it with plane tickets and show you, I've travelled like 12,000 miles. So, is it? Yeah, about that. So can't you just get a really rough circumference from that sort of thing, and then just make up a radius, which would be about 2,000 miles? And I think Google says it's like, I don't know, what does it say? 6,000 kilometers or something like that.
Radius of what?
3,000 miles.
Radius
of
of what?
Can you not just use that and just start that as your starting point?
Radius
and then
of what?
do all your calculations.
Radius of what? A sphere or a circle? A sphere or a circle?
If you're going to, you've got to assume you're going round a circle first. You have to, because I mean, I was in a.
So where do you get the sphere value from?
It was really good.
So hold on.
Why would
Where
we
do you
need
get the
to?
sphere
Why
value
not
from?
just
Let's
a
say
straight
you are
line?
going around in a circle. Okay, so you're going around in a circle. So where do we get from there to sphere?
Sorry, it's cutting out.
Where do we get from there to sphere? So you go around in a circle.
Yeah, listen, Nathan, your show's good and all that. I am a globe, listen, but your show's really good. But you've got to understand, for the listeners, everybody's getting dead mad because you're saying things and we agree, and some of the stuff you're saying is fine. You can't argue it, and that's where the big problem is. Now, listen, I've just got to put it out there, and then I'll stop, and then you go. So you were talking about an hypothesis the other day. So the hypothesis is asking a question and then proving it's right. So I'll go on then. I'm going to hypothesize that we live on a sphere, and I'm going to do this by traveling in one direction, keep doing it from airport to airport if I have to. Obviously, it's not going to be a straight line, but let's do it close enough. And I get round back to where I started, let's just say, and that happens. Now, I know we've got all this other theory. We're traveling around the disk and all that, but whatever. Let's just assume, just for now, because we've got to hypothesize that I've gone around the planet and I've done it in 12,000 miles. So then I can use a formula to work out the radius of the Earth from that.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that.
Just 2 seconds.
The problem with that is that you have already. No,
So
I won't, because you've already begged the question. So you're already on a sphere. Yes? You're already on a sphere, aren't you? You've already begged the question.
Assuming that we've got to start from somewhere, because then I can do it.
No, we don't. That's not science. Science is not starting with an assumption. That's not science. That's called begging the question. Starting with your outcome. Do you understand what begging the question is, sir?
Yeah, but if there's a flat Earth, then we're gonna.
Do you understand what begging the question is? Starting with your outcome and assuming it, i.e., precisely what you have just said. We have got to assume we're on a sphere to begin with.
Well,
no, we don't. That's called begging the question.
Yeah, but I can do it the other way and assume it the other way. I'll start from a flat Earth then.
Don't assume anything in science. Listen to me. That's not how science works. First step in science isn't making assumptions. Why are you talking over me? You said, I get to talk, you get to talk, you talked, you assumed your outcome. Now I'm pointing out that you've assumed your outcome and you're talking over me. So shut your mouth and listen. Science is not done by assuming your outcome. Science is done by observing a phenomena and then establishing a cause and effect relationship in a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a very special kind of prediction. It predicts a cause and effect, an independent and a dependent variable. Once you establish those, you can then go forward and experiment. by varying what you presume is the cause. Now, in that process, there is absolutely no assumption whatsoever. You do not presume your outcome in the scientific method. So when you come here and tell me, who's making all this fucking noise? Mute if you're not talking. Right? When you come on here and tell me that you...
It's really not...
Why are you still talking? Who's making that noise? Right? I've got only about half a dozen people in here, and I've got an Orthodox not on mute, and this Dem guy who's telling me that I have to assume my outcome, right?
No, please, Nathan, come on now. Please.
Why are you begging me? I am telling you, sir. I'm not here to be appealed to, right?
Somebody
this is
has
fact.
to turn their watch
You
page
don't
off.
appeal to me about the scientific method, sir. I assert that you start with an observed phenomena. You do not start with an assumption. Do you get it?
Yes, we get it.
Good! So stop telling me that we start by assuming a sphere and then take our measurements from there. Okay, you stupid muppet?
See, what are you talking to me like that for? What's...
Because you're a muppet. And you're telling me that it's scientific to assume your outcome, and it isn't.
You didn't say that.
Please stop begging Nathan to beg the question, because he's not gonna. Okay?
Right. You don't beg the question here.
Everybody knows he's not going to.
Yeah, good. Why do you come here and do it then?
Because we need to start somewhere, Nathan.
No, we
again.
don't. That's not science, you complete moron. You ask me why I call you a moron, and I've just explained to you why you don't beg the question. It's absolutely unscientific to assume your outcome when you're trying to establish a cause and effect. So when you ask me why I call you stupid, it's because this is the second time I've explained this.
He understands what you're saying, Nathan.
Good.
He just wants you to let him speak.
What, to beg the question again and tell me we need to assume our outcome?
Let's start with this whole idea of an hypothesis, because I don't think you understand what that means.
A hypothesis is a very special kind of prediction. It predicts the cause and effect. That's what a hypothesis is. It is to be experimented. It is the expression of your experiment. Yes? That is what an experiment is formed from. An experiment is a hypothesis test. So you test what you have hypothesized. That is an experiment.
Nathan, everybody's heard this 1,000 times.
Yes, so why does he come here and tell me that the first thing I need to do is assume my outcome? And then say, come on, please, please let me beg the question. Why won't you let me talk and beg the question?
Yeah. He did say that he doesn't need science to prove his point.
Yeah, you do. Science establishes cause and effect. And you guys apparently claim continually to be backed by science.
Yeah, let's... Nathan,
Yeah, you're just a stuttering idiot. That's why you guys get what you get, you religious zealots. Yeah, that's why I talk over you, because I point out your idiocy. You don't understand science. You think you've got to beg the question first. That makes you a buffoon.
No, Nathan, it makes him want to get past your obfuscation tactics.
No, this is not an obfuscation
No, you're the obfuscation.
No, there is no obfuscation. I've pointed out on multiple occasions that this gentleman is begging the question. And he immediately disclaimed it by saying, I have to start somewhere. No, you don't, sir. That's not how science works. How many more times do I have to assert this?
He's not claiming to do science, Nathan.
Yeah, well, you need to here, because you're backed by science with this bullshit. Apparently, the whole body of science is behind this nonsense.
No, not apparently, unequivocally.
Yeah, right, well, I don't care. If you're going to assert that science is behind you, you better damn well bring some. Don't tell me you don't need it.
Yeah, it sounds like the whole body of science is like a bit of a bum.
Yeah, it sounds like the whole body of science ain't worth much, really. It sounds like it's much more important to pay attention to the actual method of science, rather than the whole body of it, i.e. men in white coats who tell you things. Or balls on strings. Yeah? That's what the whole body of science has got you. Flat earthers ripping you a new asshole in front of a couple of 100 people. Because you believe.
Right, you guys say that you can't verify these things. What's preventing you from becoming a scientist? Are you banned from universities?
No, anybody can be a scientist. Anybody can apply the scientific method. It is open to all.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. It's open to all. Anybody can do the scientific method. Nobody can qualify as calling themselves a scientist and then just asserting stuff with a badge and a white coat because they're a scientist. No. Science is the application of the scientific method. If you apply the scientific method, it doesn't matter how many letters after your name you've got, how big your white coat is, or how clean it is because of how much biological biz you've used.
Why are you saying all this, Nathan? It's pointless. Oh, please. Let me just ask you a couple of questions. How about that? And then we'll see what happens.
Ask your question, man.
What happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Oh, ask your question.
Nothing. There was a pause.
All right, okay.
Background noise of traffic, and I can't work out who it is.
Yeah, I can.
That was your 10-second delay from the International Space Station.
Right. So we've already had this argument where I just agree that the Earth is too big. And all of these arguments we're making about perspective and looking over these bodies of water against another landmass, I think you need to be able to see further. And that's the problem we've got. We just can't.
That's the problem we've got, according to you. The Earth isn't that
We
big.
see too far is the problem.
Yeah, but
not that we can't see further. We see
it sounds
too
like you're
far
assuming we live on a snooker ball.
No, I'm assuming based on the
we see
science
too far for the ball we're supposed to live on. That's the problem.
Yeah, the crust, if you like. I go running a lot, cycling a lot, and the GPS. I've done all the edges of this country, England. I've travelled the entire course. How does that work? And how does international travel and supplies and trade? How does it work? I mean, I can GPS you now, and I've done it before. I've sent things myself and received them myself, like trying to get them across the country while I go on holiday to another country. It gets there faster than I do.
Why wouldn't GPS work?
Yeah, hang on. Let me ask them. If you think that all this is just like sorted, why is it that ML370, the flight ML370, was never able to be found?
Oh yeah, there are always going to be discrepancies, aren't there, and exceptions to a rule. There's always going to be.
There's your answer. There's discrepancies.
Are you assuming?
Sorry, hold on,
GPS...
There's your answer. There's discrepancies.
Yeah, no, one or two though, not like.
That's all good by you,
there's
right?
going to be exceptions if there is a set distance because of the specific size of the globe of the Earth. Then you're not suddenly just going to arrive twice as fast with the same average speed on a plane going between two distances. That doesn't make any sense.
I can calculate those.
There should be no discrepancies at all. Minor variations, perhaps, but not like this.
Dan, let me ask you a
Make any
question.
sense.
Yeah, go on.
Bolton, right?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, go on.
You can go up the M53 and get to Hoy Lake. Stand at the beach at Hoy Lake and look at north, and you will see Blackpool Tower 30 miles away.
Yeah, well, I'm more from Blackpool than I am from Bolton, as you said. So yeah, I'm quite familiar with all these very furnace pictures you've taken on. I'm dead familiar with it.
Yeah, we can see stuff that shouldn't be there by virtue of the curve that we're supposed to live behind.
No, but you see, you might be wrong with this. Listen.
How?
You might be in it right. If you draw
wrong?
a circular ball on, if we could do it with paint, really simply, draw a circle on paint, but the crust is not flat or perfect circular.
Yeah, but water is.
We could be on right now. You're in Liverpool, right? We could be on a 70-mile like trough, which is not going to show any curvature. I'm looking at a hill right now in Bolton. Where's the curve?
So we're on the dice now. We're not.
It's over water that you're missing.
Yeah, the water that's really important. We need to find something like water of such a distance, and I'm going to say over. I'm going to say over 100 miles.
We need to find where curved water
on screen right now. It's on screen. Can you see it on screen?
If the curvature is not constant, then where are these sudden angle changes on the Earth?
Can you see that hill
these
behind
corners?
you? There you go. That's the trough I'm talking about. We could be sat in a valley right now on the Earth.
No, the water.
Yeah, it's over water, but there's still a bottom. Water finds its level, but I'm seeing the top of a hill in that picture. We could be lower. If we could get to the top of that hill,
over a known distance,
point and look down, then you can see your curve. But you're in a trough right now. This trough could go
you can't see your curve.
That's what I'm talking about. It's not in a trough.
Water is level.
Yeah, water is level. Right. Okay. Yeah. Imagine you've got just a cup. Now the water
Level
in this
and
case
straight.
is that picture you just shown me, and we're standing at the level of the water, but the cup edges, which are higher than the water, well, that's the trough I'm talking about. You need.
That's not what we get. If you look on screen now, you've got the graphical depiction of the Isle of Man with us standing to the tip 31 miles away from it. And between us and that body of water, there's no obstruction, there's no bulge, and we see stuff that we shouldn't see at massive distances. So there's no trough going on. It's just flat.
But I think that the Earth is that big. I think there is, and you're not taking that into account.
It isn't. Observably, that's why I
You
said
mean
look
that
on
you
screen.
think there is?
It's
Flat in
obviously
the
and
picture.
observably flat. That's what we're saying. They all just pointed out that you see stuff, and you just said, "Oh no, if you go into paint," it's like, no, we're actually taking pictures of the world and seeing stuff that absolutely unequivocally, now we know that you don't account for perspective, should not be there.
Oh no,
That's
listen,
just one
Nathan, I do
observation.
enjoy this alternative science you've got going. I enjoy it. It's nice to think about it like this because it does challenge your maths, but you're not, you know, everybody else has come to another conclusion, and you're completely discrediting it
Really?
all, and you're not giving
I don't
me
think
anything
so.
at all to
I don't think
to,
so,
Really?
man.
to take
Everybody-
away.
I think
you know
more
what
and more
everybody's
people are coming to the
conclusion is?
conclusion that we're actually right.
No, I don't.
True question.
No, you don't, but I think that more and more people are coming to the conclusion that we are right, because we're getting a lot of attention these days.
Well,
And our
let's hope
audience
it
is
does come
growing.
back, because all this is
And your
pointless to you.
arguments don't
You're
hold any
just
weight
trying to get
anymore.
money right now, and while we can't prove it otherwise, you've actually got quite an audience. But when we prove we live on a flat Earth, it's not going to change anything. But all this income you might be making from all this is
here we
going to
go.
go away.
Dem,
People that say that
when
are
you
the
give
most
up.
indoctrinated people.
just give me 1 sec with them. It's a matter of fact we can see Blackpool Tower from Hoy Lake at 30 miles away, right?
Yeah,
Regardless of how
I
big
see it as well. Yeah.
yeah, regardless of how
I've
big it
just
is,
run the half Earth
of
and
how much we see, we can see it. Okay.
Hmm.
You think that the Earth's that big that we shouldn't be able to see this? Like whatever your perception of the size of the Earth is, we can test it. Now, what I want you to do is, if you accept that we can see Blackpool Tower from Hoy Lake at 30 miles away, I want you to tell me whether we should see it or not based on a ball, and then come back to us in a day or two when you've done some working out, because the size of the ball that you think that it is massive is not consistent with the maths that they tell us that we live on.
Yeah, well, that's what I tried to start off with in this hangout. I think the Earth is a lot smaller than it claims, just through my literal travel. The places I've been, the tickets I've got stamped, and the distance I've travelled from one place to another, without crossing some massive water mass. And that's why they don't ever do that, by the way, is because you need to be able to land and refuel. It's a safety thing. That's why they don't travel from one pole to the next. You can't do it because of safety. I've calculated around, take something, 12,000 miles.
Let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question real quick?
Of course.
Okay, my question is, you said you think the Earth is smaller.
Yeah.
Then, okay, so then what does that do with the scientific presentation to us that the Earth is bigger?
Well,
Because
exactly. I want to know where this extra.
Okay, but here's my question.
If the Earth is
Here's my other
smaller,
question,
then there
though.
should be even more curvature.
Right. My other question is,
probably.
So we should live in
right.
on Soundly's Earth.
But okay, hold on. Just listen to what we've done already today, because we have had arguments from your side saying that Google Earth is accurate, but your statement right now is saying no, it's not.
Well, this is, see, I'm completely in the wrong when it comes to my calculations, because I'm doing it on like a land to land. I'm not sure if they even take this calculation from, let's say, they don't do it from sea level, and I don't even believe they do. So then my calculation is wrong, and I can see where they've got this extra distance from. I know that, but like I said to Nathan, please just listen. We've got to start somewhere, and we do have to start somewhere. Why don't we take that calculation as that circumference, and then use that, and then see if everything we've got is in the same
Can't do that.
ratios, if you want.
Assume that we're living on a sphere
Okay, yeah, fine. Sphere. We could do it from a square.
Yeah, fine. Why is it that he points out that you're using a begging the question fallacy and then going out and trying to mathematically justify your presupposition that gets a yeah, fine response? I've called you a moron and stupid for this reason. Do I have to belittle you again for your stupidity?
You can try to belittle me all you want, but you just can't when you're on a flat Earth standpoint. You can't do it.
There's no difference between our mathematics and yours. The only difference between how we measure the observation on screen right now and how you measure that observation on screen is with a presuppositional value of R that you insert. So you insert a presupposition.
I'll give you the R value now, then.
Shut up!
2,000 miles.
Shut up! There is no difference between how we measure this stuff. We can just take a simple angle to it and get the same measurement as you get when you presuppose R and ignore perspective. So we've got two things. One has a presupposition. The other is exactly the same, just minus an R value. So we've got two things. One has a presupposition and the other doesn't. Essentially, they're the same, other than the presupposition that you have. So when we draw a straight line to anything we see, and that is absolutely in keeping with how we understand the workings of light, we take a straight line to the target and calculate its angle based on it being on a flat plane. You can then take those measurements and beg the question, insert an R value. That's all you do. We have now got to the point where we've figured out how you can do that, how you get this exorbitant amount of curve where there is none, where you can get the same result when measuring it with simple trig. And the reason is simple. You exclude perspective. That's it. That's how this magic trick works. That's all we've discovered on this little journey, that you beg the question and omit perspective. To trick people, all we're seeing is the inverse square law in action. Objects in the distance getting smaller, that's it. You exclude that and call it curve, with a begging the question fallacy to back it up. And I'm sick of it. People like you coming that's telling me, like it's okay, to say we've got to start somewhere, or to put it another way, I've got to beg the question. I've got to say it's a sphere to begin with, otherwise I can't prove it's a sphere.
How old are you, Nathan?
Mind your own bloody business. You beg the question here, I tear you a new one. Do you get it?
Yeah, you're tearing nobody a new one.
Yeah, I am. I'm tearing you a new one. Because you beg the question. It's a fallacy.
Occam's razor is on our side.
Do you understand what a fallacy is? Do you
you
understand
are.
what a fallacious argument is? If you don't understand what fallacy is, that's your problem. The audience understands what fallacy is, and if they understand what fallacy is, they understand how me pointing out your fallacious argument is me winning. It is me tearing you a new asshole because you don't understand a fallacy. You don't understand fallacy.
I can predict it. What's up with you?
You can't predict it. You beg the question. You're just too stupid to understand what a fallacy is. You're predicting nothing. You're presupposing your own outcome. That's the point. You're just too stupid to get it. And that's fine by me, because while you tell me that I'm the one who's stupid, I'll just keep repeating it to idiots like you. And every time you beg the question and I point out that you've already assumed your outcome, and you say, well, we've got to start somewhere. Please, Nathan, please. Please let me preordain my outcome. Please let me beg the question. I'll just say, no, you're a retard. You don't beg the question.
No, I'm not. Will you stop calling people that as well? We're having a civil...
Yeah, this is retarded
Stop
logic.
acting like one.
Retarded logic, yeah? Fallacious logic is a retardation in logic. Therefore, you are a retard. It is the correct application of English.
What is wrong with
and
you?
I will call your logic retarded because it's fallacious. You don't understand the fallacy, so you keep talking while I point out your fallacious nonsense. That's fine, but I will call your logic retarded, and the purveyor of that retarded logic is you, sir, making you a retard.
It's not true, Nathan.
Yeah, retarded logic, fallacious logic, using a fallacy to prove your own outcome by presupposing it. That fallacy is called begging the question. And you don't get to beg the question here.
No, nobody's begging nothing.
So when you say, I have to assume, that's not begging the question. Yeah, this again is you too stupid to realise your own stupidity.
No.
Yeah.
We live every day, Nathan.
Yeah, it is.
And
we've got to assume it's a sphere to begin with. That's begging the question. You're just too dumb to get it. Yeah,
you gotta remember Nathan's coming from the caveman perspective of flat Earth.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He acts according to
I can do this trick too and just talk all over you.
See why.
Yeah, too stupid
We've had
to
this
get
conversation
it. Too stupid to understand his own retardation. Yeah, too stupid to understand his own fallacy. Just keeps talking constantly like all of these globers. That's their only trick. Keep talking over the point non-stop. That's their only trick they can use. Yeah, you've got fallacious
I'm
logic.
arguing with some person on the internet.
You are begging
Yeah.
the question. You are assuming your outcome. Do you get
Well, I've
it,
got to
sir?
go now, dudes. This is non-production. I won't be listening
Goodbye.
again.
Okay,
Thanks
sod
for
off.
your arguments,
No
lads.
one's
It's
twisted
so
your arm to come
annoying.
on. And I will
thank you for
point out
showing
you
your
are
religion.
a retard when you join again because you have used retarded logic. You disclaimed it in your little diatribe about how you must assume, like you have some sort of justification for presupposing your outcome. No, that is a retardation in logic, and it will be pointed out. And you will be called a retard for it. Sorry, if you don't like it, tough luck. English is used appropriately by me when people apply fallacious arguments. That's it.
Nathan is retarded.
Take care now.
Well done,
Bye-bye
Lewis.
then.
Oh wow.
Excellent
We got the
rebuttal.
auto believer in the house.
You've said in the last 10 minutes.
Excellent rebuttal, Lewis.
Auto believer in the house.
How you've done it.
Nathan, he's not really presuming anything. You can only see 7 to 8 miles, pretty much anywhere on Earth, right? So, he's got that going for him.
Wow.
Surely someone's going to address this nonsense when we've just literally had a picture of a lighthouse at 31 miles. Do you really think you can only see 7 miles? Really?
I'll address it. Occam's razor is on our side. Our explanation is very simplistic, very small, very much on target. We see it because it's there. It's a straight line of sight. Your explanation requires all kinds of presuppositional values like R and calculated curves and refraction that's not actually proven and also assumed. I think that Occam's razor is on our side.
No, Occam's razor's on my side
It's
because
like-
in
it's like
millions of
modern
observations,
science.
you can't see
Modern
past 7
science has
miles.
taken away the
Clouds
ability
disappear
for
behind the
people to
horizon.
critically
The
think.
sun disappears behind the horizon. The moon disappears behind the horizon. The simplest conclusion is you're on a ball because you can't see greater than
That's
7
not the
miles.
simplest
Horizon
conclusion.
that you're describing.
That's begging the question.
No, I'm logically deducing the question from my surroundings.
Okie
Are
dokie,
you going to
if
argue
you
the
say so.
boats go behind the curve, but we don't see any curve from 120,000 feet? Come on.
That's not how it works on a sphere.
That's exactly how it works.
Why-
The higher you go, the more you can see.
Why
We
don't
should
I
see
feel the Earth spinning?
From Google Earth at 30,000 feet, we can see the curvature of the Earth.
You haven't seen any of the videos that the flat earthers sent up balloons that show the curvature of the Earth?
You know, if that was showing the curvature,
You've got flat earthers. You've got flat earthers with balloon coverage that show the curvature.
Oh, I've seen tons of them. Just pause the video and take a ruler to the screen.
Right,
I've seen plenty.
screen, let's see any flat earther producing any evidence of sphere. Come on.
Well, I don't
Maybe
have it in
so
front of me right now. I'll
in this
gladly
balloon,
show it to you.
balloon
We would
footage,
gladly-
do you stop the screen when it's actually when the camera is pointing slightly downwards? Because the fisheye lens will then show a curve. But if you wait for another moment when the camera points a little bit more up, oh, then the curve's the other way around. Ooh,
Hang on a sec.
really
Somebody's
pathetic.
claiming that flat earthers have been able to show the curvature with high altitude balloon footage. I would like to see that evidence, please.
Maybe the best idea is not to have a flat earther prove flat Earth or globe Earth or globe Earth, but have we agree on measurements that we can do together, and we can do the same measurements and. maybe
Wait a
not
minute. I'm sorry. Is this the same guy who
But
just
why do we have
suggested
to
that,
do
that flat Earth?
these measurements?
Yeah,
All these
to do
measurements have been
measurements, but
done
don't
already.
only
We're
accept
asking
measurements.
for the proof of it.
Well,
All
we
these
don't have any
measurements have been
measurements for
done already, right?
curvature. We don't have any measurements
rate-
for
the ra-
curvature.
Yeah. So you have
Where's that measure of curvature?
And with that, I think I'll say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. But if you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!